Welcome to the Borne to Chat Shit podcast, episode 4. We are joined by a very special guest, our son. We call him our son. In today's podcast, we're going to, it's our first ever guest actually, so we're actually excited for this one. And this podcast is going to be about just riding itself and competing for the first time, because I know a lot of people who watch this do want to compete, are interested in that sort of stuff. So we want to provide you as much insight as we can to this. So first of all, I'm going to ask you, Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm doing all right. To be honest with you, it's completely out of my routine, this, and it's kind of sent me a little bit. Like, I sat there in the B&B earlier, like, oh my God, like, this is so not normal. Like, I'm used to just walking and going to the gym every day. You know what I mean? So, like, now that I'm here doing a podcast, which I've never done before, and then tomorrow I'm competing for the first time, I'm like, fucking hell, I'm way too, like, special for this. Like, this is way too out of my comfort zone. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just a bit overwhelming, you know what I mean? So
it's kind of like the reality of things now are starting to like hit, if you know what I mean. Like you visualize these sort of moments, but you're like, I'm 8 weeks away, it's 8 weeks time. But then you're like, fucking hell, like I'm going to be doing all the work that I've put in. You're then going to display that tomorrow, which is 100%. Fucking, crazy. And then when you're crazy up there, you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I can't even think what tomorrow is going to be like. It's like, it's crazy because I've wanted to do this for so long. It almost gets to the point where you're like, it almost feels like still so far away, like it's never going to happen. And now, like, it's tomorrow. I'm like, I don't even know how to feel. You know what I mean? So I'm just there like, fuck, like, it's actually happening. I
think the biggest thing that I'll say, I know we're diving into it straight away, but like tomorrow, it's a nerve-wracking experience just getting up there on stage and being in front of hundreds of people potentially. But the main thing that I would say to start off with is like just enjoy it, because the day goes by so fucking quickly that you kind of almost it's just a blur by the end of it, and you're like, fucking hell, like it's a great opportunity to network, talk to people. I've been backstage before and I've kind of like shut myself away from everyone. And whilst that is important to like, really like dial in, I do suggest bring your headphones and sitting in a corner and really sort of like get your fucking head in the game. Do like actually enjoy the experience for itself, because there are people backstage who want to speak to you and communicate and have a good time. And sometimes I've been there and I've just not enjoyed it because I'm so dialed in on looking a certain way on stage and like, I need to be this athlete, but you need to enjoy it. So that's the one thing that I would say to start off with. But should we start off with how you got into this?
Yes.
Because it's been fucking years, mate, to be honest with you.
It's been a long journey so far.
So yeah, just tell the people, tell us your background, like how did it all start for you, and the purpose behind it, and also lead into this point as well, like, because obviously you made a decision last year to want to compete. Was this something that you had in your mind when you first started, or go straight back to the beginning?
Start from the beginning. So just tell us maybe a little bit about yourself and also where it all started.
I think starting off, I was always, it's the classic cliche, I was always the skinny guy, you know what I mean? So I was just like, I wanted to get into the gym. Started training at the gym group, proper shit gym, like really crap gym. And then I saw that they were opening a gym in Hale town. So I was like, oh, what is this? Like, so I walked past one day, it was Physique Gym. So I went in there, I literally no intention with ever like getting a membership. I literally went in there and I said to Leanne, she was behind the counter, I said, can we just have a little look around? And she said, yeah, sure. So we went in, had a little look around, literally signed up like 5 minutes later. And then we trained chest and triceps for like 3 hours, because that's what you do when you're like 17, you know what I mean? You just go in and just train chest and triceps for like 3 hours. And then I remember one day, this was still in 2019, and I went into the gym and Leanne said to me, she was like, oh, there's someone really special in the gym today. And I looked at her, she was like,
was it me?
Yeah, it was George. And she was like, oh, George, he's really shredded. He's so shredded right now. I was like, okay. She was like, yeah, look him up on Instagram. So I looked you up on Instagram. She was like, yeah, follow him. So I was basically forced into following you, George.
I actually didn't know that, funny enough. I actually didn't have a clue.
Yeah, and that was when, you were doing your 2019 prep, obviously at Physique. And then, I just started watching the YouTube videos. I was like, oh shit, this actually looks like really, really cool. So then I was, so literally from that point, I was like, maybe I would want to compete one day. And that's like 5 years ago. That was a long time ago, you know what I mean? So it's not like an overnight thing where I've been like, oh, I want to compete next year because, I've I've been training a while. I've wanted to do this for a long time, but I knew I was never at that point yet. You know what I mean? So then in 2020, I messaged you on Instagram. I was like, how much is your coaching, that kind of thing. Then obviously you replied, and then that was in June 2020. And then, since then you've obviously been coached by you. We've done multiple diets. We've done multiple gaining phases. I've got pretty chunky and I've dieted down, so I feel like I'm at the point now where I feel like I've almost earned the right to sort of want to, step on stage. I've almost proved to myself, I didn't want to just be like, I've been training for a year, let me just jump on stage and see how I do. I want to actually be like, I want to put in the work before I actually get to that point. And I feel like I'm almost at the point now where I'm like, okay, I can do my first like novice season or whatever. You know what I mean? No high expectations to like, do anything crazy. But I feel like I'm now at the point where I'm like, I can actually potentially compete. So, and here we are, one day out. So
crazy.
Yeah.
Honestly, like Leanne used to always put me on the spot in the gym. She always used to bring people over and say, oh, this is George, he's a YouTuber, he does this, and I'm like, I don't even know this fucking person. But she always used to do that, and she'd interrupt my fucking sets doing it.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. So I actually never knew that, funny enough. And that was Leanne. So I'm very actually grateful. Oh no, Leanne's never going to watch this or listen to this.
I think she would.
I
think she would, yeah.
Interesting.
Leanne's lovely, yeah.
Leanne, shout out Leanne if
you're
listening to this. She's always been very grateful for us. She lets us in the gym for free. She's always been that superstar. So yeah,
she's like a mum, honestly, and the way that she just 100%. Looks after that gym, I just adore.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's why we always go to Physiques, because it's just like such a home environment. So obviously Leanne introduced you to George, we can call it that. But what made you reach out to George for like coaching? Was there something about his personality, or?
I think it was his YouTube. I remember watching your YouTube literally in like you say in 2019 when you were posting your stuff. I remember the session. I'm in loads of your YouTube videos from 2019. Like, I remember watching your YouTube videos and being like, I'm literally at the back of them. I'm not even joking. Like, Skinny Ryan is at the back of your YouTube videos, and I remember like looking and being like, oh my god, I'm in the background, like all of that crap.
Crazy.
So like, it was just your YouTube. I think I liked the routine that you set in during like your 2019 prep, and I was like, you take inspiration from someone from doing something, and then I'm like, that looks cool. I want to sort of do the same thing. You know what I mean? And I knew I loved going to the gym, and I knew I wanted to take it to the next step. And obviously the next step was then going into, getting a coach and actually properly tracking my food, properly, doing a proper training program, all of that. I knew that was the next step, and I'd obviously watched your YouTube, so I was like, I may as well message George and see what's see what he does.
Interesting.
And no regrets?
No regret.
4.5, nearly 5 years later, mate. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
So how long was you training like before you got a coach then? Because obviously you said you went to the gym group or Pure Gym, and then you went over to Physique. So how long was you training for until that point?
I think I was training at the gym group for about 7 or 8 months, so not that long to be honest with you. And then I was training at like Everyone Active, like a leisure centre for maybe like 3 months. So I'd say maybe close to a year before I started going to Physique, because I remember I literally went to Physique about 4 days after they opened. So it's like it was proper new there, and obviously all this new kit. Like I remember looking at the Atlantis pendulum and thinking, what is this? I was like, this is crazy. Like this is mental. And then so I think probably about a year before I moved to Physique, and then probably about a year and a half before I got a coach. So I'd probably say about 2.5 years, something like that.
Interesting. And that's where I usually find, to be honest with you, that's where people start getting coached, is they get those newbie sort of gains when they first start going to the gym. Like anything you do, you start fucking growing.
Yeah,
it's just you can do the shittest form in the world, you can lift the most ridiculous weights or do the shittiest program ever.
Yep.
You're going to grow from doing just
100%.
that. But then you get to a point where that sort of novelty starts to wear off, and it's like, okay, what do I do next? And that's where I generally see like people then invest into a coach, which I actually think is especially if you've got like, goals of wanting to compete. I think that sort of range, like get a good year or two underneath your belt, but then like as soon as you then get a coach and then you try something different, it's like
100%.
like when someone comes to me and they're doing like 4 sets of 10 to 12, and they're doing like, I'm training back and biceps and chest and tri, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And then I put them on a new split. They're like, fucking hell.
Only 2 working sets. I remember when you put me on 2 working sets, I was like, 2 working sets? Like, what's that? I'm used to doing German volume training and all this weird stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 5 sets of 5 on the bench press. Like,
we've all been there, but I think when you actually start doing, you know, something different, the body's like, whoa, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, and then you just start growing, and then you start seeing the progress even more. Then that's where things
100%.
start to level up. And I remember, you know, going into lockdown, used to train out of the fucking Water Gardens car park.
Yeah. I remember I trained like, it was like -3 a couple of times, like it was freezing.
I remember
warming up, and like you just wouldn't get warm, you know what I mean? So I don't know if that's safe or not, but
I remember seeing a video of you, I think you sent it over to me for form footage, and there was just like cars in the car park just going past, and you just took like a car space. And normally that car park was fucking well overcrowded most of the time anyway, so people were just fucking going past, and there's you with all your stuff, and you're looping round the there's something that used to loop round somewhere.
I bought the old pulley system for like 10 quid or something like that, and I remember they had like little bars in the Water Gardens car park, so I just looped it over, and I just did like tricep press downs and all of this stuff. But the worst part is I had to fill my car up with so much weight that I remember this one time I was driving out of the car park, I went over a bump and my back tyre just blew out. So I had like must have been like 200 kilos worth of weight in there, because my mate worked at a leisure centre and he took a load of like plates and stuff like that. So I had, for about 6 months, I had an Olympic barbell in my car, just going across the back seats and into like near the glove box. It was just there for like 6 months. And then, because it's the only place I could keep it, there was nowhere else in my house to keep it, so I had a barbell in my car, and then I had like 4 20-kilo plates, of like 5 10-kilo plates, like all just stacked up in the back. And I was like, fucking, my suspension was, I remember the next MOT, my suspension was buggered. It was absolutely buggered. Literally, I'm not even joking. I had to change like 3 of the different like wheels. All of the suspension was absolutely screwed up. So
I don't have a clue.
I'm not a car man either, to be honest with you. But
we're not car people here. So I think, you know, with you doing that, like when you was trained during that lockdown, did you have any intentions at that point to want to compete, or was that?
Yeah, I think so. I think literally before I even started with you, I knew that I sort of wanted to compete. So it was literally, I think probably around the sort of time when lockdown started, so like March 2020 was the initial sort of time where I was like, you know, I think I want to compete. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know how to pose, I didn't have to do any of that, but I was just like, I like the thought of working towards something as opposed to just going to the gym and getting a pump. Because you see all these people in the gym, and like, no offense, if you like going to the gym and you like getting a pump, that's awesome. But you see the same people in there for years and years and years, and they're not really making any progress. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I want to actually make progress, which means not necessarily, you don't have to necessarily do bodybuilding to do that. But you know, you have to, I think, investing in a coach and getting that adherence, and it helps.
Or compete. You don't necessarily need to like compete
you
to
don't
do
have
it.
to compete at all.
I love that, because we did a podcast last time, and it was all about like first timers, or like not first timers, but why you should compete. And we were actually talking about this, that if you just want to do it for like external validation, or if you're like rushing into it and you're not actually making an educated decision to do it, it's probably not the right reason. So for you to sit there and say, you know what, I took 5 years to actually get to stage, I hope that highlights to everyone that's listening, it does take time. And I think, and I said in the podcast as well, like I made that mistake of, I saw my friend competing and I was like, I'm doing it. Like I'm doing it. And I did a 6-month off season. Don't get me wrong, I'd made so much progress. For some reason, I'm good at gaining muscle, not good at losing fat. But do you know what? Beggars can't be choosers. Exactly. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I dived deep into prep, and my prep did not go smoothly. Whereas watching you do your prep now, like with all the years that you put in to learn your body as well, like, and being with George for that consistent amount of time, because a lot of people do just switch coaches. They're like, okay, well, I've been with this person for like 8-10 months, been with him for 5 years, you've done multiple gain phases, multiple cut phases, and he knows your body like clockwork.
Massively.
You know, it's kind of this issue, okay, we'll do this, bam, response. Like this issue, we'll do this, bam, response. And it's so incredible to see you just waiting and you being patient with it, because that shows to me that you just love it. Like you 100%. Just fucking love it.
100%. I think that's what you see with bodybuilding these days, is it's getting so popular now, and like everyone is like you see people like, competing after doing like a year or two of training. It's not, it's not a bad thing. Like, you can do that if you really want to, but it's I feel like I wanted to make sure that I've taken the time to really consider it, because I know the effects of it. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not saying it's taken a massive physical toll on my body, because I think generally I still feel like I've got great energy and stuff like that, but mentally it does take a massive toll on your body, and like hormonally. So I knew that going into this, I knew the effects it has. So I wanted to actually properly weigh it up.
Naturally.
Yeah.
I think that's the dark side of competing that not many people talk about. And I think what we'll go into right now, actually, as we're on talking about prep, is we'll go actually into the prep itself, and just sort of we'll dive into the other bits about maybe some of the negative that you've seen so far in this prep. But I think we'll start off by asking, like, how has this prep been for you yourself? Like, let's go back to the actual beginning. Actually, let's go back 6 months before. You remember 6 months before where you kind of went for a bit of we'll call it a wobble. I'd say it's a wobble, in terms of you wasn't sure what you was doing. I remember you wasn't even logbooking. You was just kind of like freestyling, just going in.
Didn't know if you wanted to compete then.
You didn't know if you wanted to compete. You were sort of like debating it. Tell us at that part, like, what was the switch for you to then go into this prep? Because I feel like it's very normal. Like, I've had wobbles, Vicky's had wobbles, we've all had wobbles.
I've had wobbles. I've had many of them daily.
But I think, just go back to that sort of point. What was the sort of flicking, or the tipping point, flicking point, that made you kind of go, right, okay, I'm going to compete this year?
I think that there's a few things, to be honest with you. I think the main one for me is I've had a few, obviously George and you guys know this, I've had a few like surgeries on my leg, a few little cyst removal surgeries, which have stopped me from training legs for quite a long time. So for example, in September, this was around the same sort of time when all of this was happening. I was going through a really weird mental state, and there was loads of changes in life and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't want to compete next year. Like, I don't have it in me. Like, proper, feeling a bit sorry for myself, but also just in a very weird position mentally. And I remember I had the surgery on my leg, and I couldn't train legs for a month. And I sat there in bed the whole time. I was on Instagram. I was watching people that were on prep that year, and I knew a few people on prep that year. And I was like, I was just literally laying there in bed. I just had the itch. I was like, I just need to get back into this. Like, I need to, like, I've sort of lost my way, and that's all right. It is what it is. Like, you can lose your way as long as you learn from it. You know what I mean? So I remember probably like a week or a couple of weeks back into training fully, I remember saying to you, George, I was just saying, like, I think I want to compete again. Like I've already said to you, like, I probably don't want to compete. So then I remember saying to you, like, I think I do want to compete. And obviously everyone was doing these pre-prep diets and all of this stuff. And I remember saying to you, we need to start the pre-prep now. Like, we're running out of time. We need to get on it right now. And you were like, no. Like, just grow for a little bit longer, and we can work on it then. So that's sort of what it was.
Your quads look fucking phenomenal, so
I'll
you
take
did the job.
I remember like you wanted to, because obviously I remember seeing a lot of people, I think Rio was in a pre-prep diet at the time that you wanted to pre-prep diet, so I can imagine that you was quite influenced by seeing him do that. But the reason why I didn't get you to do that was just because, like, you had obviously that sort of like wobble, which is totally understandable. And I thought, right, okay, you've got the itch, you've got the drive, just use this as like fuel to build momentum in your prep, because this is where a lot of people go wrong with like the lead up to the prep. They just want to go into a prep and they want to, what's the word I'm looking for here? They just want to, they're just so focused on the prep and they're not focused on what to do beforehand. And I always say to anyone who's doing this, like, try and actually get like everything in check before you actually do it. So you want that runway, you want that momentum. And that's why I said, like, pulling you back right now after you've had a bit of a phase going on and off just doesn't make sense. Just use that fuel, use that energy to then really accelerate what you are doing. And from there you fell in love again. You were making so much progress. And then that transition from then going into your prep was just so much easier.
100%.
Rather than going into it where you're already a little bit of having a little bit of a wobble. It just didn't make sense for me.
I think as well, alongside that sort of same sort of note, like, I think it's actually done me more good than harm not doing a pre-prep, because I think the position I was in when I went back into that sort of phase where I'm like, okay, I want to do this now, like, I gained a little bit more weight, you know, I was pretty chunky. I was not necessarily lean, but I was far from lean. I mean, you've seen the photos, you've seen my side tricep, that stomach bulging out. But to be honest with you, I think it was good because I think I was in a very, very good spot, like metabolically. Like as soon as you drop the food, my body was like, okay, now it's time. Like the weight flew off. I remember going from like 99 to like sub 90 kilos in about a month. And like, I think I skipped the 94s. Like it just flew off. And like the performance was there, the food was still quite high. Like there was just, you know, I just felt good.
Yeah.
So.
And this is kind of like understandable because when you get to that uncomfortable spot, you're like straight away you just want to pre-prep. You want to get yourself. You're like I want to get myself into the most optimal spot for prep.
Yep.
But I've had this scenario actually with one of my clients. She was meant to start prep on Monday, went out on Saturday, broke her leg on Sunday, and we'd obviously pushed off season by then, and we'd gotten her uncomfortable, and straight away she was like, oh, I still want to diet. But then what you want to think about is actually what's going to set you up better long term. Yeah, okay, right now this is what you're going to do, but psychologically speaking, if you're already feeling weaker because you haven't trained legs in 4 weeks, you've obviously not that you've lost muscle, but there's definitely going to be a reduction in strength there. If you're going straight into a diet and you're thinking about prepping next year, most likely what's going to happen is you'll dig yourself further into the ground. Your strength is going to drop even more. And the whole reason why you started bodybuilding is because you fucking love training, and it would take away from that. And I think that was a really good shout from you, because all that would have happened is you would have disliked training and had a negative association with it. So it's, again, showing that like some people are going to go about it one way. That doesn't necessarily mean like that's how you should do it. And I think that's one big takeaway if you are listening as a first time or as a person that wants to compete, is don't just follow the crowd, because your kind of journey is going to be so individual to you based off your biofeedback, your injuries, your health, your wants, your needs, where your mental health is at as well. Like you can't just simply say, okay, well, X person has an incredible physique and this is exactly what they did. They did the pre-prep and they did this. Actually have a coach that knows what they're talking about and knows you as an individual as well, what's best for you.
100%. I've seen people online saying like, you know, if you want to have a good successful prep, then you need to do a pre-prep diet, because otherwise it's not going to go very well for you. And I'm like, for me that could have not been more wrong. You know what I mean? Like those last few months when I was the heaviest I've been, like that was the best training I've ever had in my whole life. Knowing that prep was coming up in a few months' time was the biggest motivation ever. And me at a heavier body weight, you know, I had room to push. Like, I got to the point where I was like, you guys have both probably had this, you know, when you're at a much heavier body weight and you're like, everything just feels stable, everything feels good. I can go onto a dumbbell press and not having done it in months, and I'm just good at it because I'm too fat to not be unstable, you know what I mean?
I'm too fat to move past a certain angle.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I feel good, training is just flying, like let's just keep running that up, and then when it gets to prep, I'm motivated and I'm ready, you know what I mean? And
it's the whole like optimal bullshit that I hear all the time, like this is the most optimal thing to do and this is what you should do. It's almost like a textbook. It's never a textbook, ever. Winds me up, pisses me off, literally just want to punch the wall when I hear it, because I think like there are people that are just starting out and they are reading these posts, and I know they're made with good intentions, but I was definitely at that point where I was like, I think I should be doing this, and then I was doing it and my body wasn't responding, or I was finding myself unhappy in some sort of thing. So again, it's individual to you. Yeah,
I agree on that. And then
you always say that.
I always say
something. I was like, I agree.
She sums up very well. Vicky does. She does it all the time. And then you, of course, a couple of weeks into prep, and then all of a sudden we had our first sort of, I call it setback.
Yeah, massive wobble. Massive wobble.
Dive into that aspect, because I think this is really important, because so many people would be in your situation and give up and just go, fuck this, I'm going to nip it in the bud. So tell us how you what happened and how you sort of overcome that as well.
Yeah, so like I said literally a minute ago, like I've had a few like cyst issues with along my right leg. I've had a few cysts come up and stuff like that. And for me, it's like for most people, it's probably not a big deal. It's just like a little cyst in your leg, you know what I mean? For me, it's like a massive like wobble. It really like messes with my head. I obsess over it and get really, really stressed out by it. And I noticed that to be honest with you, I noticed it probably before even prep. And like going into it, I was a little bit like, oh my God, like there's like a little cyst in my leg. Like I can't deal with this. Like I'm a proper stressed out person, you know what I mean? A proper overthinker, proper like, I can't be doing this. So I got to like the end of February and I was like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. Like I remember saying to you, I was like, you know, if I get a surgery and get this cyst out my leg, like I can be back in training within 2 weeks. And obviously the NHS are not going to do that for me quite like quickly. So I remember I had to pay quite a lot of money to get it done. This was at the end of February. I'd started literally a month earlier. So yeah, about 4 weeks into prep, I was like, right, I'm going to have a surgery on my leg to get this out. I can be back in training in 2 weeks. And yeah, I had the surgery. I had a great time off. I'm not gonna lie, I actually really enjoyed it. I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2 the whole time. I was laying there in bed watching stuff, and I was enjoying it. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And then it got back into prep, and I was like, okay, now I'm good. I remember it got to the point where I was like, I was 2 weeks post surgery, and because where it is on my leg is right next to my knee. So obviously any sort of knee flexion is going to put stress on the stitches. So I remember getting to that point, and I was like, it was still really, really tight around that area. Like for some reason, the old scar tissue really flared up like proper badly. And I was like, oh my God, I can't really train legs. But I remember just sort of doing it anyway. I don't know if that's a smart move or not, but yeah, I mean, 2 weeks post surgery, I was back back doing my thing, and I was, you know, flying from that point really. So
I think on that topic is that, you know, in prep you can have wobbles. Like Ryan's actually had fucking surgery. Okay, yeah, it was minor surgery.
Yeah.
It's not like a full on fucking under.
There
we go. Vicky's got the words for me. But you know, you can have hurdles in prep and still, you know, come out the other side.
And you most likely will.
And yeah, you most likely will, because
if you want it bad enough, you make it happen, won't you? So
exactly that, and you prove to yourself, and you know, because you was debating whether to actually prep this year.
Yeah.
But you probably look back now and go, actually, you know what? I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
so I think it's really important when you do have wobbles, especially in a prep, because obviously we want preps to go perfect. We want to go smoothly. Reality is it's not going to go like that. Reality is you are going to have moments where you self-doubt, you are going to self-sabotage, you are going to feel a certain way. But you can actually, I mean, if Ryan's having fucking surgery during a prep, you can certainly come over very sort of minor things in those sort of situations.
I think that leads on to as well, giving yourself enough time, because if we didn't give ourselves enough time, you know, we'd be fucked really, wouldn't we? Like if we didn't give ourselves, you know, I've been literally tomorrow will be 7 months. So like if we didn't give ourselves that time, you know, we'd be playing such like massive catch up, and it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how many kilos are you down since the start?
Oh my goodness, you can see it in my face, can't you?
Yeah.
Massively. I remember looking back at photos in April, and I'm like, I was like 4 months into prep at that point, and I still looked fat. But yeah, I think I was 99.1 kilos to start with, and now I'm about 77.7 this morning. So about 22 kilos. Did you
when you started your prep? Did you think you had that much to come off?
To be honest with you, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I knew I wasn't slim. You know, I was going into all my sessions and stuff like that at like peak weight. Yeah, I was like pulling my shirt out because I knew, like, you know, my stomach was bulging, all of that. So I knew I wasn't particularly like slim, and I knew I had a fair bit to come off. But you know, I'm just lucky my body responded really well to the diet. You know,
yeah.
So.
And that goes back to, you know, the points of what we said about how you treat your off seasons. You know, if you treat your off seasons well, the prep's going to be so much easier. For most people, I sit here and think about Vicky actually, because she's having some moments where things don't go well for her, and we're still trying to figure that out. But for majority, if you treat your off seasons like a prep, your prep and all your diet,
99.9%.
Yeah, minus Vicky, the prep itself will go very well. So, you know, we went through phases of, like, you know, you losing a kilo a week.
Yeah,
you know, he was losing a kilo a week.
Yeah, first week, obviously a lot of it being like fluid and stuff like that. First week I lost like 3 kilos. Week after that was probably like 2. And I remember I've got to 95 kilos, and then 2 days later I was like 93. And I was like, where's the 94s gone? I think I saw one weigh in at the 94s. I was like, that just disappeared straight away. And then by the time I had my surgery, I was 90 kilos. And that was 4 weeks in. So I'd lost 9 kilos in about 4 weeks. And it's just like, I think my body was just itching to diet. I was like, it's like, you're too fat at this point, mate.
Too fat at this point. And yeah, you know, I mean, your body's responded really well throughout this. And the beauty of, like, we go back to the long game, is that you've had moments where we've had diet breaks. You know, you've been on reverse food for now two weeks, you know? And it almost gets to a point like you feel like you obviously being as lean as what you are right now on a day-to-day basis never feels normal. You know, you're gonna have, I always like to use the analogy of like having cast iron plates chained around your ankles and you just dragging your feet along. That's the kind of analogy that I use. But the benefit of you starting your prep 7 months ago is that you've been able to have that patience and take a step back when needed. And yes, obviously you've lost a hell of a lot of weight in that time, but you've actually been able to do it in stages rather than, you know, having to lose all that weight in, for example, let's say 20 weeks. That would have been a fucking nightmare. You know, you feel 10 times worse and probably look 10 times worse for doing that. And I think what I always say to first timers is that you always will realise that there's always more to come off than what you think. And some people, like for example, you think, fucking hell, my body's starting to get lean, but then your legs are like 15 weeks behind, you know? So the time aspect, and I always say to anyone, like at least, depending on your body composition, at least 20 weeks, especially as a natural, 20 weeks. And even for assisted as well, to be honest with you, like the more time, the better, because you then have the opportunity to, you know, play around with things. You know, we've seen how your body responded to a full week of diet break. By the end of it, you hit a new low and you was eating, you know, 3,100 calories, 200 calories on train day. You know, for the past 2 weeks now, we've been able to remove cardio. We've been able to get your body into a really, really good state. And that's only going to allow you to carry this prep out successfully. You know, too many people are going into, for example, their first show, and in their peak week, they're fucking digging on 1,500 calories and doing crazy amounts of spend to try and play catch up. You've not had to do that at this point. And yeah, obviously you've lost a lot of weight, absolutely. And yes, it's going to have a toll on the body. But actually taking a step back and actually reflecting, going, you know what, you're actually able to play around these things. And we're cruising into this first show. And Ryan's got a long season ahead of him, you know. It's August now, you know, you're still going to be going to October. So you've still got a fucking decent amount of time. But how we've planned this out is that, you know, we've given ourselves the opportunity. So when we finish this show, you're going to be in a position where you full guns blazing, mate. You know, you're going to be so fresh that when you put your foot down again, it's going to be the exact same response as when you did your first when you first went into prep. And you know, playing that long game and actually being patient is always going to do you favours for your training performance. Training performance has been pretty good for you, I would say. Really good, 100%. Obviously, the visuals as well just got better throughout this week. You notice how the longer we've been on this food, it's just got better and better and better. So, long game is important. Like, don't just do fucking 16 weeks and expect to get into shape, because you will not be in shape, especially as a natural. And playing that long game is going to be super, super, super important. So, I think the question I've got for you now is, what have you learned about yourself in this prep so far? We kind of like have to try and edit in and try and move.
I'm trying to watch it.
Yeah. To be fair, I've listened to both your podcasts and I haven't actually noticed any cuts.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Yes,
good.
No, genuinely.
It's my editing skills.
Yeah,
that's
you're on
it.
You're on it.
Go on, Vix.
So we're just going to have a little pause in the podcast, and it's to remind everyone to make sure you like and rate the podcast. I appreciate everyone that's already done that. It genuinely does help us a lot, and it allows us to create these opportunities where we do have people like Ryan come on, and we will definitely have other guests. So please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube, like, comment, and also subscribe. What's the word for Spotify and podcast?
Rate the podcast.
Rate the podcast and follow it and save it and all of that.
Someone gave us like a 1 star and it brought down the ratings like 3.7.
we had like it must have been like 5 ratings, and it was like, I don't know, it was like 4 5 stars and 1 star, and George was fucking
you just know that someone was waiting there for you to post that, like, oh, I can't wait to rate that, like 1 star.
You had that on your YouTube the other day, didn't you? It was like posted 1 second ago, 1 dislike. I was like, oh.
It's like when you go and like book, I don't know, like a restaurant or somewhere, and then you look at the reviews, like 3.5 stars. You ain't gonna book it, are you? Let's be honest, you ain't gonna fucking go there. If it's 5 stars or 4.5 stars, you're probably gonna go there. So
okay.
Don't forget to rate it.
Let's not talk about that, because it'll wind him up in a second. And actually, what we wanted to do as well is bring in Ryan's lovely girlfriend to the podcast.
Yeah, get in there, come on, get in it.
She has been an amazing support for Ryan, and I've seen that through the stories and through everything that Ryan's been posting. And we've again already done there we go. We've already done a podcast on relationships and bodybuilding, but now you have some advice from other people. That's not us. So, do you want to ask the question that you've had in mind first, and then
I can't remember the question. What for Ryan?
Yes.
God, this is fucking shit, isn't it? So the question I had was, what have you learned from this prep so far?
I think number one, I'm an absolute massive head case. I think that I went into this knowing that I am an overthinker, and my God, sometimes it's been hell on earth with the overthinking.
Yeah.
So that's probably number one. Number two, like we've already said, give yourself time. I remember when I was like 86 kilos, my scale weight didn't move for like a week. And I remember saying to like Rio and saying to you, Rach, and saying to, I think George needs to reduce my food here. Like it hasn't moved in ages. And because we gave ourselves enough time, George obviously took the food down. Oh, didn't take the food down. Sorry, that's my bad. He just kept the food the same. We did a deload, scale weight dropped. So I think being patient, I think that's an important one. And then I'd just say I think I've learned that I can properly like retain numbers better than I thought. You know what I mean? Like you see a lot of people online that like, you get super weak towards the end of your diet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm as strong, no way, but like I think I've done a pretty good job
pound for pound as well. Like George always taught me that. He was like, yeah, okay, you might not be lifting as much, but you're actually lifting heavier if you compare pound to pound.
If you actually worked out like the ratios, you're probably lifting more now than what you was doing when you was 99 kilos.
Yeah,
for example.
100%.
So when you put it in that perspective, I know it means fuck all to me. If someone told me that, I don't give a shit. Don't care.
My muscles don't care about that.
If I'm not lifting new weights, I don't care.
Yeah.
But it actually technically is true for a lot of people, I would say.
Yeah, fuck that. If I'm not strong, I don't want to hear it. So with all of the things that you've learned, what advice would you give to someone that is a first timer or is maybe thinking about competing?
That's a very good question. I would say just don't rush into it. Like I would just say just take your time, enjoy your training, get strong, get to the point where you're at the body weight where you can really push your strength and you can really grow. And then just take your time with it. Make sure you get a coach. Obviously, like the adherence is crazy. Like as well as that, they keep your head screwed on. You know what I mean? Like I think if I was prepping myself right now, God knows how low my food would be. You know what I mean? So I think making sure
you wouldn't even want to know.
I dread to think. I probably wouldn't be eating. Probably just be like drinking water. And that's it.
Breathing air.
Yeah, literally.
Water and lemons.
Yeah, just making sure you've got a coach. Obviously, I think that goes without saying. Really, making sure you're patient and. Try and enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like it's actually, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it as much as it's been a massive head fuck. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the prep, and I think that constant progress and that constant, seeing new lines and seeing new detail and all of this, it's really rewarding. And I think if you don't enjoy it, well, literally, what's the point? You know what I mean? So you see so many people that are so miserable. And I'm there like, why are you even bothering? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to get off stage.
Enjoy it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Is the phrase of like, embrace the suck. You want to be fine. And what I love is I like a challenge because I know every single time like life hits me rock bottom, I'm only going to come out stronger because I make myself do that. I'm like, right, okay, here's a challenge. It's not why me or like, why is this happening to me? It's what is it trying to teach me? Yeah. And that's what I love about prep or dieting 100%. Or even like pushing body weight up.
Yeah.
So I agree. It's kind of like if no one's forcing you to fucking do it. Yeah. If you don't want to do it, don't do 100%. It. Like if I had someone prepping and they're having wobbles and they're just genuinely like, I am so miserable, I'm like, please just stop. I can encourage them. Obviously if someone is genuinely just having wobbles and I know they want to do it deep inside but they're just doubting themselves, it's a whole other story. But if they're genuinely like, I fucking hate meal prepping and this is a fucking chore and this and that, I'm just like, do a photo shoot prep.
No, 100%.
Do just bodybuild, just build muscle. You can do that,
Definitely.
You've certainly got to enjoy like bodybuilding if you want to prep. You shouldn't be prepping if you don't enjoy it.
I think I'm very lucky because I'm sort of like I don't really get cravings. Like I don't really get food cravings. I haven't had a single food craving this prep. I haven't,
Don't jinx it.
yeah, for real.
We'll be recording this in a couple of weeks' time.
I'll be binging in a couple of weeks. Yeah. I don't really get food craving. I haven't had it the whole time. I don't really physically have a lot of issues. I don't really feel myself dragging too much. I think a lot of it's in your head. That's another thing for like first timers is don't tell yourself you're going to drag too much, because you don't have to, you know what I mean? Like, if you feel good, like, allow yourself to feel good, you know what I mean? Don't feel like you have to be suffering and struggling. And
one thing I'll say on that front is that I've told you a few times, me and Vix have actually spoken about a few times, there have been moments where you've like spoke yourself into existence in terms of like, I'm going to feel like shit and this and that, and I've reminded you like, no, you don't. You don't really need to. Like, a lot of people like create that to then go. They want to try and confirm those feelings. When reality is, you really, really don't. Obviously, you have your moments, you have your days. You are going to go through periods of where it is going to be difficult, but generally, it shouldn't be as hard as what many people think it is. And if it is, then you really have to sort of like deliberate actually whether.
You've got to assess things, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to assess things. You know, actually, you have to really actually assess whether this is actually worth it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it has to come down to enjoyment, and so many people like want to bodybuild. You know, they're not making a living from it. It's not the identity, but they allow it to massively complicate and affect everything that they're doing in their life. Is it worth it?
That's the thing. I think a lot of people don't understand it, and I think a lot of the people that I've spoken to about bodybuilding that know nothing about bodybuilding, the biggest thing that everyone asks me is, do you win money if you win, how much money do you
No,
get?
I lose it, bro.
Yeah, literally, I've spent like £300 on this show, or more than that probably, and I'm like, no, there's like, I get a little trophy, you know what I mean? I get to feel good about myself for a minute if I do well, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, if there's not really that much reward from it.
Yeah.
So
the reward is what you make it. I'm a big believer in that. If you rewarded, like, for example, I did a 28-week prep, didn't step up on stage because I was like, do you know what? I'm not presenting something that I want for that given moment. But I gained so much from that prep. I challenged myself so much. I was doing my medical school finals at the time. I was working 2 jobs. I had Mango, was living alone, and I was like, I've won. Like, I have won. I don't need a plastic trophy. I don't need to step up on stage. Frankly, just want to save myself a little bit of money here, put it in my pocket. And it was a good shout. But back to what you were saying as well, George. Like, people sometimes want to suffer because they think that it makes them a better bodybuilder. It doesn't. Like, bluntly put, sorry, that's my opinion. I don't think it makes you a better bodybuilder. I think it makes you resilient. I think it makes you admirable if you push through it. But at the same time, if you're becoming a shit human because you are suffering, you're digging, you're speaking to existence, like, I'm going to feel shit, and then you latch onto things, like, the thing is speaking into existence, like the whole manifesting, like the positivity side of things. The reason why manifesting works is because if you speak positively into existence, you start to pick up on positive stuff. Same goes for the negatives. Like, if you start saying, I'm going to feel shit and my food's going to be really, really low, and then you start picking up on things and you start to drive yourself into the ground. And this is where people, you know, they blame bodybuilding for their body dysmorphia or for their eating disorder or for this and that, but it's just because that's the environment they create for themselves at a given point in time.
Agree.
Yeah, so that's my little ramble, and I want to get you involved, Rachel, as well, because rewind, literally backtrack to a couple of minutes before when Ryan was talking about the fact that he was an overthinker and he was a stressor. Of course, you've been with him throughout this whole prep, and I think for me it's always really important. I'm big on making sure athletes are okay, but it's also the family, because again, bodybuilding, reminder from everyone, from me to you, is a hobby. It's not your fucking job, unless you are an Olympian. Even then, you're probably paying a shit ton for your pro shows, but you know, it is a hobby. It's meant to be something that you enjoy, and you know, the repercussions of it sometimes is that you tend to neglect the people around you. So first of all, you're not a bodybuilder yourself, are you?
No, I am not. I do exercise. You know, I work around my own injury that I've had, but I do exercise at home at the moment. I'm looking to get back into going into the gym, but no, I am not a bodybuilder by any means. Definitely not.
She says she trains. Can I just say, like, if you, we'll tag their Instagrams below. If you go on Rachel's profile, the things that she does with her body, like, oh wait, that sounds really bad actually. sorry Ryan, this is not a promo for any kind of adult content. What she does is she does yoga, and I remember Ryan, actually you posted on your story and you reposted it. She was doing like some mad splits, and I was thinking, I am so embarrassed. Like, I can't even put my shoes on properly. Like, I am so unflexible.
She's
but
very bendy.
She's amazing. What I'm trying to say is she doesn't compete. She's not into like the bodybuilding lifestyle, but fuck me, she's incredible at what she does. So how have you obviously found being a third person in Ryan's prep? How have you found that yourself?
This is going to be a good one.
No, it's actually
Honestly, we're not having any arguing. We're not having no arguing.
Yeah, we're going to be arguing on the way home now.
No, it's actually been, I will admit, and I've told you this before, I expected it to be a lot worse than it actually was. I have been in the gym environment for a little while when I first met Ryan, and people were on prep and they'd come in really moody, and sort of like you described, they'd created that idea for themselves that it needed to be miserable. And so I looked at that, and he said he was going on prep, and I was like, well, that's going to be really fun for me.
And I have been quite moody in other diets as well.
There have been moments of you being, irritable and a bit more sort of snappy in other diets. So I was a bit like, oh, that's not going to be really fun. How are we going to sort of manoeuvre through that? But actually, surprisingly, it's been handled really, really well. And I think a lot of that has been to do with how sort of you guys have handled the way it sort of worked for him. And a lot of that has been, I will give you credit, on you. And the way you've handled your own mindset. He has done a lot of sort of, I call it self-help work. He has been doing a lot of that. And I think that communication has been the most important part, where we have spoken about things a lot. When things have been maybe a bit more tough, a little situations cropped up, we've discussed that properly. We may have had to have taken an hour and I step away, but ultimately it's been...
Communicate quite well, don't we?
We do communicate quite well, in my opinion anyway.
I think so we've been together a little while now, like you guys were saying in your previous podcast, when you first met, you sort of jumped into prep pretty soon afterwards. Like we've known each other, what now, 4 years almost?
4 years.
And like, so Rachel knows me very, very well. You know what I mean? So it's been, you've known I've wanted to compete the entire time. So she knew this was coming, and we've worked on things, and we're good at communicating. So I think it's been pretty good in that respect.
But I think it's been surprisingly easy, I guess. Well, for me, obviously, it's definitely been easy. I haven't had to do any of the real hard work or grind or anything like that.
I mean, you've been dieting yourself.
You have.
I have been dieting myself.
But also the hard work comes from supporting someone on prep. So how would you say you've supported Ryan? And this is a question for you as well, Ryan. How would you feel that Rachel has supported you?
Oh, yeah, massively kept my head on.
Get soppy now, please.
Massively kept my head on. Like, well, yeah, I am, like I said before, I'm seriously an overthinker. Like, anything I can overthink about, I will overthink about. And she's always there to be patient with me. That's the thing. Like, she won't get all like, pissed off at me if I'm bringing it up again, because I bring it up multiple times a day, or message her about it, and all of this. It is constant. It is actually it genuinely is constant. But she's just handled it really well. She's been there for me. Like, you can't really ask much more from someone, really, can you? You can't fix these issues. These are little issues that are my own problems, and she's just able to just be there and just be there. You know what I mean? That's all you need to do, really, isn't it? Yeah. Like, all you need to do is be there for someone.
It was the hardest part, was the overthinking, the anxiety around certain things. It's tough to be constantly, needing to be there, but at the same time, when you love someone, I guess that's what you do. It's not very difficult in that respect to just do that.
Yeah, she's a very loving, caring person anyway. Like, that's just what she does. You know what I mean? She just cares for people. That's what she just enjoys care. She just cares for people.
I'm crying. I was going to say I'll give you the remote, but
So, because I know you've done something that has helped you with your thoughts and your fear. What have you done to sort of manage that during this?
Yeah, I think for me it got to the point where I have never been so mentally messed up in my life. Like, I've been properly like when you like lose the perception, like, when people say you get to a certain point of prep, you think you're fat when you're really fucking lean, basically. Like, I get that, but like in every walk of life. So I don't really know. It almost gets to the point where you don't really know what's going on. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I got to the point where I just sort of need to voice my sort of thoughts and my feelings and stuff like that. So yeah, I basically just started writing stuff down. I've got a little diary, got a little notepad, and I just started writing stuff. And I remember one day I probably wrote like 50 pages in this diary, literally just constantly writing. I brought it to the gym with me. I brought it, to work and stuff like that. I was just writing down in this diary like little things, like even if it's just me having a moan or whatever, you know what I mean? Me getting it out on the piece of paper was just me being able to visualize it, me being able to sort of just see things from a different perspective a little bit. Because when it's all caught up in your head, you get so confused almost, you get proper head foggy, like they say in prep. But being able to write it out and being able to almost step by step work through your thoughts a little bit more gives you a little bit more clarity. So just write it down and like, read as well. I started reading a book, didn't finish it. I read like maybe like 50 pages of it. Yeah. I'm not really a reader, but even just that helped, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's something that we're really big on. Like, we want you to tell us how you feel. It's not just a check-in where you're saying, oh, this is my weight, this is my food, this is how I trained. It genuinely is like, how are you feeling? Because what we eventually did is we jumped into a group chat, like all three of us, because I get you, Ryan. I'm very, very similar to you. I am an overthinker.
Yeah.
I've worked very hard to get through. Obviously, me right now, I'm so much better than what I was. Me in 2020, God, was she a mess. She needed an exorcism for literally like put me in a church and do something with me because I was terrible. But something that I've noticed as well is when you are able to offload, you know, send us voice notes and, you know, have a little bit of a waffle. If I gave like my 2 pence on it, just maybe try and view it from this perspective, or like kind of saying certain things to you, you were very receptive to it as well. And I think that's something that's really good. So one, I think something that's really helped you is you communicate your thoughts and your feelings, and this is something that you're shit at, George. You don't do that, and you pile things on, and then you just can't release it. So if for people that maybe can't speak, journaling is a big one. And I genuinely, like, I hate to admit it, but I'd never, like, wasn't like a spiritual person, and I was like, fucking journaling as if I'm wasting my time doing this. I remember my therapist said, I was like, my ass and my journaling, and then I actually started doing it, and I was like, wow,
actually
like,
makes you feel good,
it makes you feel good. And I don't like writing. I'm a scientist, so I hated essays at uni. But what I used to do is I used to say, I feel X when, because what you realize with anxiety as well is you don't know what emotion you're feeling. It's just a state of anxiety. Heart rate's up, you're sweating, you're not able to like think straight. You can't comprehend it, you're snappy. So it's presented more physically, but under anxiety is usually underlying like emotion, so fear, uncertainty, etc. So I tried to start naming my emotions, and I said, I feel this way when, and that's all I wrote. It wasn't like, dear diary. It's nothing like that. It's literally just like, I feel this way when. And when you start seeing that on a piece of paper, I remember reading some of my things and I was like, you're a fucking stupid cow.
It does
What are you worrying about?
It does put perspective on it. It really does. You know what I mean? You write it down, all of a sudden you're like, why am I even worrying? You know what I mean? Just you're looking at it from a completely different perspective, and you're like, you know, it's so not worth my time. Yeah. And then 5 minutes later you're worrying again, so you have to write it down again. That's my issue. But
that's okay, because each time you do build onto it, and like what writing and speaking is amazing at doing is bringing you into the present, because anxiety is stemmed from thinking into the future. Depression is stemmed from thinking about the past. Like when you're in the present and you're actually thinking, especially me with my spelling, how the hell do you spell this? Like you're suddenly not focusing on everything that's going on in your head. It's what's happening on that piece of paper, and there's so much science behind it. It's not just something that's like taken out of someone's arse and put on like a self-help page. It genuinely there is scientific. It's how our brain is programmed. So either talk, what I'm trying to say is either talk, communicate with your coach. If your coach is providing you with that safe environment to speak, speak to someone as well that's not going to make you feel shitter about the situation. So this is why I don't have many friends, or many friends that I trust, because I'm not about speaking to, even like if we have an argument, I'm not about speaking to girls and like, like break up with him. I don't like that. Like sometimes you just need to offload. Sometimes you just need someone to listen to you. So find your people during this prep, or even in off season if you're struggling, and just keep them close, and just say, communicate with them as well what you expect from them. So like with you two, maybe just be like, Rachel, I just need you to listen. I don't need advice. I don't need this. I don't need that. I need a cuddle. Whatever you may need during that time, express that to that person, and keep that safe environment and give back to them after. Be like, I'm thankful for you, I'm grateful for you, etc. Buy her flowers, whatever she may like.
I think I've been very lucky with the people I've had around me. I've obviously got you guys, got Rachel, I got Rio in the gym. Obviously I train with Rio, and he's very good at like listening, and he's very good at putting perspective on things. So like I can go to the gym and I'll be like stressed out and all of this stuff, and like, you know what I mean, I can just, when we're just training, I know I can just talk to him about it, and I come out of the session and I've trained hard and I feel so much better about it. So like, yeah, just surrounding yourself with those good people is so important. You know what I mean? Especially like if I just had Rachel, for example, like, that's a lot of burden on her, like me constantly just like using her as that person to lean on. Like, whereas if you have a couple of people there that you can sort of speak to, it does relieve a lot of pressure on like your partner or, you know, your relationship, you know what I mean? So just having you know, it doesn't have to be a lot of people, but even like you, Rio, you guys, that's more than enough to you know, keep your head screwed on, you know what I mean? So
and it's talk and then be receptive to it. That's one very big on, you know, if someone's giving you, and you trust that person, so you trust us, for example, we're giving you genuine advice, you're receptive to it, because that's something I'm sometimes bad at, especially when it comes to George. I'll tell him I'm struggling with this, he'll be like, very valid point, he'll tell me exactly what to do, I'll be like, no. Like, you know, so it's just being receptive to that and then doing your own work. Again, like a prep is hard, is not for everyone, but it's also an amazing opportunity to challenge you and pick apart areas in your life that you're struggling with, that you may be masking through just day-to-day life, because they become exacerbated, they become heightened, and they become apparent. So yeah, I think mentally speaking for yourself, that's something that's really important, because everyone's going to have wobbles. Like, yeah, okay, some people are a little bit more anxious, then you've got the opposite side of the spectrum where someone doesn't talk at all. So, you know, it's just finding those strategies that work well for you and having your safe space, because that's another thing for first timers. If you're listening to this, have a good support network, but also be kind to that support network, because they don't need to be there for you. Yeah. And like having Rio there, I think for you was really good, because 100%. I think Rio is a good source and a good influence. Like when we spoke to him, I was like, this guy's so sound. He's so nice that you bounce off each other very well.
He's prepping as well, so he understands completely everything I'm going through.
That's what I found helpful. Was that there are some aspects of it that I can empathise as much as I want to and try and understand, but ultimately I'm not experiencing it. So having you guys and Rio be there as well, it's like it takes a little bit of the like, okay, I don't feel as responsible for, I don't know, trying to understand that and actually put myself in his shoes, because it's very difficult for me to do that.
But I think that's you know, very commendable to you as well, though, because despite the fact you don't necessarily know how it feels to be, you know, really low body fat or be prepping for 7 months, you're like, you still understand, you know what I mean? Like you don't understand in the sense that you've not experienced it, but you understand what I'm going through, and you can actually sort of have a bit of sort of empathy in a way, even though you haven't gone through it, you're understanding, and that's important, you know what I mean? You're open-minded and you're able to help me with anything, really. If you have someone there that's just like, oh, what the fuck's the matter with you? Like, what, I'm still eating 2,600 calories, like, what the hell are you complaining about? Like, you know, Rachel, I'm eating more than her, so why am I complaining? Like, there's people like that that have no idea, they do not understand. Whereas if you have people there that just want to care for you, they'll understand what you're going through, even if they haven't gone through it themselves, you know what I mean?
It seems like you've done quite a bit of learning, actually, when you actually sit down and actually reflect on this and actually just like even talk, maybe not ever even spoken about this with you two together. It actually seems like you've actually maybe potentially, well, I definitely see you've come out of this actually stronger than what you've done before. 100%.
And it's amazing to see. Like, I genuinely feel like a proud mum.
I'm a proud dad as well.
So proud, because this is all that we wanted. We wanted, of course, for you to bring an amazing package, but also you come out of this prep just being like, I've learned so much about myself, and my relationship's still strong. Like, I'm so much stronger. I've learned strategies to help me like throughout life, not just in prep, because it's not just about bodybuilding. It's just nice.
It's
just very nice.
Yeah, I think one thing about prep that I've sort of learned like massively is like, if you struggle with something with your mental health, like say you have anxiety or you have, you know, depression or anything like that, going into a prep will make that a heck of a lot more severe, but also it will put you in a position where you're almost forced to be able to work with it. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think I would have learned any of these lessons had I not been at the point where I'm almost losing my mind a little bit, you know what I mean? So, you know, I've come out a lot stronger from this because I've been really tested, you know what I mean? So if you really want to test your like sort of mental state in a way and grow, then prep is not necessarily a bad thing, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you might feel a bit crap, but you can learn from it massively, you know what I mean?
I think I would agree with that, but also I would just say, like, if you do have the right people around you, because, and if your specific personality type is going to be strong enough to go through that, and it's not like this person's stronger than you. It's just, I know some people do go into bodybuilding, go into a prep to mask the issues that they're having because they think it'll make them happier because maybe of external validation, etc. If you're doing it for like, okay, because I love it and I'm ready for that challenge and I want to grow, and it's that willingness and want to say, I want to be better, like I do want to solve all of these issues, then 100% have your circle, have, you know, people like George and I that are going to be so understanding, that will listen for as long as you need to vent, sort of thing, that will call you, that will you jump into a group chat, you know, and that's all good. But I think if people are going into it, for example, with an active eating disorder, and I'm big on this, if someone's got an active eating disorder or active depression going on or very, very active anxiety, sometimes it is a recipe for disaster. And unless, like, you know, unless you're like in your shoes, where you've got someone as amazing as Rachel that is going to listen and fucking pop the question. I'm joking. I will at this point. But yeah, it is a tip and balance, and again, every single person is going to be different when it comes to that, because it's going to exacerbate everything. And if you're already thinking like, I'm so anxious, like, you know, like trigger warning, but like I was definitely those points like where I'm so anxious, I don't want to be here, sort of thing. Jumping into prep, no, absolutely not.
I think you have to go in very open-mindedly. I think you have to go in like, if you know that you have these issues and you know it's going to get worse, and you have to go in with an open mind, knowing that you have to face it in a way. You know what I mean? So like you say with masking things and stuff like that, it's almost like pushing it under the rug. Sort of, you know. You have to be able to face these problems and be able to actually benefit from it, you know what I mean?
And be willing to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, so I mean, I think when food returns to normal and everything like that, I'm probably going to be a much better person as a result of it, you know what I mean? So like you say, if you're going to mask it, then there's no good at all. But if you're able to learn from it and grow from it, then, you know, it will probably work you wonders, but
you better
time
be
will
a good
tell.
person, or I'll ground you. You're grounded. I'll take your phone away from you.
Anything else you want to cover on that front?
No, is there anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to come out I'm just going to come out and say it.
That.
I just want to say massive shout out to you guys.
Appreciate
my prep would not have been anywhere near as smooth as it has been without you guys, like literally, and that's just a massive credit to your coaching. You know, I think, like I said in that voice note that you put on your story, like if I was with any other coach, I think I would be seriously in the gutter right now, because like it's been easy, like in terms of food, in terms of stuff. We haven't made a single change the entire prep to food. We haven't made a single change in terms of expenditure. You know, the first plan you gave me, I was on 12,000 steps, 60 minutes of cardio a week. That's not a day, that's a week. And that has
Some people do that a day.
Yeah, and that has not changed. And sorry, Wiki, so I don't mean to add salt to the wound there.
It's okay.
But I think, like, you know, I think a lot of people would have been like, you know, at that point, like I said earlier, where I saw that 86 kilo mark for like a week and it didn't change, a lot of coaches would have been like, right, we need to reduce things here, we need to maybe increase expenditure a little bit, and that's when you start digging yourself into that hole. But the patience you've had, you know, as much as it's been for me, like sometimes it has actually been a little bit frustrating. I've been like, I just want to get the ball rolling, you know, I don't want to be sat in the 86s anymore. But you just have to trust the coach, you know what I mean? So being able to trust you guys and having someone you can trust to take the reins fully, you know what I mean? Like, it's important. Like, there's no point having a coach if you're going to go behind their backs and do more or do
me.
Yeah,
it's me.
Yeah. So I think trusting you guys has been very important, and you've done very, very well. And if you guys are looking for a coach, hit these guys up. It's seriously,
I appreciate that.
It's very. I've been very impressed. I've been more impressed than I even could have like imagined. Like, you know, obviously I've always been very impressed by your guys' knowledge, but like coming into this, I've been like, all right, yeah, like this is way better than I even like imagined. You know what I mean?
That's what we hope for, you know.
Family,
absolutely.
You know, I can sit in there and take all the credit, but you know, you yourself, mate, as well have been.
I'll take all the credit.
you yourself as an athlete, mate, have been.
Yeah.
Like you can't fault you at all. You know, it makes the coaching and the experience a hell of a lot easier. When someone wants, because I've worked with people before, and Vix has done that, where you want the goal more than what the client does.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And it's like it's
not
hard.
a two-way thing at all.
It's not a two-way thing. Whereas, you know, you've been focused, you've ticked the boxes, you've done what you've needed to do, you've been relentless with it, you've dealt with the wobbles, you've dealt with the highs, and you know that you come out of this, and you know you've been a perfect client and the perfect athlete. You know, so you know you're proven to yourself that you are, you know, you're elite. You know, you are elite. You're able to do it. You know, you're not the average bodybuilder. You're not the average Joe that just goes to the gym. You're someone who is got very good potential. You're someone who loves what they do. I can clearly see that you love what you do. And I only think that your future is going to be very bright, mate, in terms of your bodybuilding career, your journey, whatever you want to go into with this. Yeah. You've proven that you can do that, because these preps are sometimes the hardest things that you'll sometimes face. But when you come out the other side, and you know you keep the close people around you very tight, you build upon this. You know, things only go up from there. I promise 100%. You that. And you know, if you decide to prep in a couple of years' time, it's only going to be 10 times easier. Mate.
Got all this data now.
From experience, honestly, you learn so much from this
massively,
that it will massively improve every aspect of your life. So I could imagine, you'll definitely shine. So
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. I think we'll leave it there. I don't know how long we've been going on for, but whatever. We appreciate you guys coming over. I know it's obviously late, but I think at the same time, like, I wanted to do this because I know you. And I know what he would do. You sit in the Airbnb and he just wouldn't know what to do with
that's
himself.
the thing. I couldn't even watch. We were there earlier. I couldn't watch anything on the TV. I was just there, like twiddling my thumbs, like.
Yeah.
And it was your idea to watch something.
Yeah. She was like, "What do you want to watch?" I was like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
I'm just sat there, like, just need to do something. Like, I can't. You know what I mean? Need to take.
So I wanted to do this because I knew it would keep your mind occupied, and it would sort of like help you. You know, just reflect and also just relax a little bit, because all the work has been done. Yeah. There's no more work that you need to do at this point. And you know, sitting there, because I've sat there in Airbnbs, and I've sat there on my own in Airbnbs, and I've gone loopy, and I've not slept all night because I've been so fixated on doing this and doing that, and what happens about tomorrow, thinking about ahead. So this is just an opportunity just to chill out, have a chat, keep your mind occupied, and do what you need to do when you get back, and hopefully get a good night's sleep ready for tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to it, mate. Looking forward to the dance, I like to call it, and displaying
the first dance.
Being judged by other people who are just completely out of shape, most of them anyway, to be honest. Sorry. I remember that. I remember I was at a UK FBA show, and go out, they have like a half-time interval, and they go out and all fucking smoking cigarettes. I'm thinking,
what is this all about?
You're judging me, and you're sitting there.
Yeah.
So tomorrow you're going to smash it. You're going to do yourself proud, you're going to do everyone proud, and it's going to be a great opportunity for you to showcase all the hard work and the years and the graft that you've put into this, mate. And I expect to see a big smile on your face on stage, because that's what it's about.
Yeah, 100%.
And what will be. It's not about trophies. Obviously, we want to win, of course we do. We want to do well, but it's actually a lot more underneath just that. You know, my trophies just sit on the fucking side with Dustin at the moment. I don't barely look at them, to be honest. It doesn't mean that, but it's what you come out with on the other side, which is super important. Vicky does. Yeah, I just go, shit, innit? Don't look at them. So yeah, guys, we appreciate it. Don't forget to like if you're on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe if you're on YouTube. Don't forget to rate the podcast if you're on Spotify or Apple, whatever the fucking thing's called. And we hope you enjoyed this one. And if you want to see something like this again, then let us know. We might get you on, for example, a later show, for example. You can reflect upon the season so far and stuff like that.
Yeah, post-show sort of talk. That'd be good.
Mukbang. We're sitting here.
I'm down.
No, bad coaching.
Bad coaching. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.